Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to ask you to please take your seats in order for us to commence the ceremony. We would like to inform that we have the service of simultaneous transmission in all the rooms in case you do not have a seat in this auditorium. While you find your seats, we would like to ask you to please silence your mobile phones and keep them this way throughout the entire ceremony. We thank you very much for your cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to this opening ceremony of the Latin American Meeting of Econometric Society, LAMES, and Latin American and Caribbean Economic Association, LACEA 2008, an annual meeting organized by the Pure and Applied Mathematics National Institute, IMPA, and the Getúlio Vargas Foundation, FGV. Before composing the ruling table on behalf of LACEA LAMES coordination, we would like to register and thank the presence of the ruling of the institutions connected to the research and teaching of economics and mathematics, the ruling of the institutions connected to the development of science and technology, the authorities of the various organizations connected to the federal, state, and city spheres, and the remaining attendees of the ceremony. We would also like to thank the support of the following institutions: Banco Interamericano de Desenvolvimento, Banco Itaú, Bank of International Settlements, Corporación Andina de Fomento, CAPES, FAPERJ, World Bank, IMF, Banco BBM, Vale, Global Development Network, BNDES, Petrobras, CNPq. It is now with much honor that we invite the authorities and the personalities that prestiged us with their presence to take part of the ceremony's opening table. Mr. César Camacho, IMPA's Executive Officer. Mr. Joaquim Levi, Rio de Janeiro's Department of Treasury Secretary. Mr. Torsten Persson, Director of the Institute for International Economic Studies. Mr. Mauricio Cárdenas, Director of the Brookings Institution and LACEA. Mr. Antônio Viana, herein representing the President of Petrobras, Mr. José Sérgio Gabrielli. And Mr. Aloísio Araújo, who, in addition to being the chairman of the LACEA in LAMES 2008, today also stands for Mr. Carlos Ivan Simonsen, President of FGV. We would like now to invite everyone to stand up and join us in the execution of the Brazil's national anthem. please. Thank you. We now announce the welcome message of Dr. Cesar Camacho, IMPA's Executive Officer.
Dr. Antonio Viana from Petrobras, representing the President, Dr. José Sergio Gabrieli, Dr. Joaquim Levy, Secretary of Fazenda do Rio de Janeiro, Dr. Thorsten Persson, Director of the Institute for International Economic Studies, Dr. Mauricio Cárdenas, Director of the Brookings Institution and LACEA, and my dear colleague, Dr. Aloysio Araújo, Chairman of the LACEA and LAMES meeting of 2008. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to welcome the participants of the Latin American meeting of the Econometric Society and the Latin American and Caribbean Economic Association meeting, and also to thank to the organizers of these important meetings hosted by our institution, IMPA. As you might well know, IMPA is an institute devoted to advanced research in several areas of mathematics, and among them, the mathematics behind economics, especially through the work of Aloysio Araújo, main scientific leader of this area and chairman of these meetings. Since long ago, IMPA has been a place of convergence of young students that come here to learn mathematics. Some of them later decided to do economics. Sergio Berlang, José Alexandre Scheichmann, Carlos Ivan Simonsen, Paulo Klinger, Aloysio Araújo Pessoa, among many other successful professionals, were former students of IMPA. There are also other economists that could have been students of IMPA but were not, that are close friends of our institutions, and to whom we are very grateful for their important support. Among them, I must point out the distinguished figure of Arminio Fraga, an example of generosity. There is also the major personality of Mario Enrique Simonsen, to whom we owe in large measure this splendid building of IMPA. It is thus a pleasure for us to host this important meeting and a natural opportunity to emphasize the importance of the role that mathematics plays in modern research in economics and finance. Since its foundation 56 years ago, the mission of IMPA has been the practice of high-level research, the training of new researchers, and the dissemination of mathematics at all levels of education in the country and in the region. These principles have led the institution to create a solid research structure through the work of its 40 researchers and to accomplish the formation of more than 300 doctorates. Incidentally, it has been a remarkable policy since the creation of IMPA that admission of our students is based only on the evaluation of merit without regard of nationality of the candidates. Besides this, each student admitted to IMPA receives a fellowship from some of the Brazilian agencies for science. As a consequence of this policy, we have produced the interesting effect that about half of our students are foreign, mainly from other Latin American countries. The return of these students to their countries of origin has helped to establish solid collaboration between IMPA and foreign research institutions, especially in Latin America. Brazil is a land of contrast, as you certainly know. The challenge posed to us by poverty and lack of good education for the great majority of the population is enormous in a country with 190 million of inhabitants. At the same time, Brazil has been capable to create and maintain highly sophisticated research institutions as IMPA in mathematics that have helped Brazil to occupy a leading position in science in Latin America, and in the special case of mathematics, a relevant position in the world. It is thus natural that this institute should get involved in extension activities leading to the qualification and training of teachers, and to the establishment of activities devoted to the discovery in large scale of talented young people with no interference in its main research activity. Since 2005, IMPA, jointly with the Brazilian Mathematical Society, organizes a large-scale annual Olympiad of Mathematics for the public schools of this country. In its first edition in 2005, this Olympiad counted with a participation of 10 million students. This year, in its fourth edition, the Olympiad counted with a participation of more than 18 million of students, which is approximately 10% of the whole population of the country. One day of the year, 10% of the population are doing mathematics in this country. In this way, we are identifying very talented students in the age bracket from 10 to 16 years old, and in many cases, opening for them unexpected opportunities to develop their talents through many other programs aiming to give them an adequate education and training. I finish thanking the organizer for these meetings, to the Getulio Vargas Foundation for its collaboration, and to all the agencies that helped with financial support. I wish to all of you, participants of this meeting, enjoyable stay at IMPA and much success in your scientific work and collaboration. Thank you.
And for his greeting, we now transfer the words to Dr. Thorsten Persson, Director of the Institute for International Economic Studies.
Good morning. So I speak as the representative of the Econometric Society. So when Irving Fisher and Ragnar Frisch and others founded the Econometric Society in 1930, their aim was to advance economic theory through its relation to mathematics and statistics. In Frisch's words, the main objective of the society would be, and I cite here, to pursue studies that aim at the unification of theoretical quantitative and empirical quantitative approach to economic problems, and that are penetrated by constructive and rigorous thinking. So the 2008 meeting of the Latin American chapter of the Econometric Society continues in this great tradition that was started nearly 8 years ago. So on behalf of the society, I would very much like to thank the Vargas Foundation for supporting the meeting, IMPA for hosting the meetings here in beautiful Rio. I would like to thank the conference chair, Aloisio Araujo, who is a bit of the godfather of Brazilian economics, also a bit of the godfather of the Latin American chapter of the society as well. I'd like to thank the program chairs, Humberto Moreira and Sergio Firpo. And I'm also very pleased to see the collaboration with LACEA, continuing the new tradition of parallel meetings and really making this like a yearly focal point of Latin American economics. It's a very impressive program indeed. As president of the society, this is actually my fifth regional congress of the year that includes the North American Congress, the European one, the Southeast Asian, and the Australasian Congress. And I must say that ex ante at least, this looks like the most impressive and exciting of the 5. So I look forward to the next few days, where I hope to see a continuation of the scientific progress that was anticipated by those intellectual giants that founded our society. Thank you very much.
And we concede the word now to Dr. Mauricio Cárdenas, Director of the Brookings Institution in LACEA.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here representing LACEA. This is our 13th meeting. And as you can see, this association, which is much newer than the Econometric Society, it's alive, it's growing, it's very dynamic. This is the 3rd meeting we're doing jointly with the Econometric Society's chapter. And I think based on your opinions, based on the surveys that we conduct after the meetings, this has been an excellent idea. We're in the association are very happy about this. Certainly, it's something that gathers momentum. It gathers also a critical mass. And as Kenneth Rogoff mentioned last year, after meeting the Colombian president during our annual meetings, these meetings, the joint meetings of LACEA and LAMES, have become the 2nd largest professional meetings in economics after the American Economic Association. So I think we're very pleased to be hosting here in Latin America events of this magnitude with papers and presenters of the caliber that we're seeing. And I think that this meeting in Brazil is certainly going to contribute to consolidate that trend. I would like to thank very especially the organizer of this conference, particularly Aloisio Araujo, who has done a great effort. I think we all should be very, very grateful to him for taking this endeavor. This is much harder than it seems. It really involves a lot of work on many fronts, and there are some of those fronts that are quite difficult, especially on the funding of conferences of this magnitude. And I would also like to thank very especially the co-chair of the LACEA Program Committee for all the effort in putting together not only a great group of people, but also what looks as a very promising program. And Luis Braido has done a remarkable work in that regard. And also the host institutions, Fundación Getulio Vargas. We had the opportunity last night of meeting its president, Carlos Leal, and the board of directors of Getulio Vargas. It's also a very impressive institution that it's doing a lot of work, and particularly in the profession, training the new generation of economists, and doing it in a very in an admirable way in terms of the placement of the students, in terms of the way in which the profession is advancing here in Brazil. And I could not mention IMPA for not only hosting the event physically here in your building, but also for lending us Aloisio and all the support that this conference has required. Let me also take a minute to thank LACEA's main sponsor and indirectly a large contributor to these conferences, which is the Global Development Network. GDN, as you probably know, it's an organization that was created about 10 years ago that has as its main purpose connecting individuals and connecting, in our case in particular, economists. We, LACEA, are the regional network for the Global Development Network, and we get a lot of support from them. I'd like to thank in particular GDN's president, Govin Nankani. He's joining us. He'll be appearing on a session later on this morning, and he's really done a remarkable work in terms of advancing the network's agenda, but also in highlighting the importance of our regional network as a model for other regions of the world. Torsten was mentioning how pleased he is in comparison with, by seeing our program in comparison with the other chapters of the Econometric Society, and I think that we should be proud of that, because here in Latin America we're doing a tremendous work in terms of advancing the level of the discussion of our profession, and other regions of the world are certainly taking note of that. Let me also mention that there are two highlights of our program that I'd like to create some awareness. The first one is that we're having, immediately after this session, the Albert Hirschman lecture. It's a tradition in our association that this is a lecture reserved to very prominent individuals that have made very significant contributions to our profession. And we're very pleased to have today Michael Spence, whom you know is not only the Nobel recipient, but also recently led the Growth Commission. It's launched its report last May. So I think it's very rewarding for us that he's accepted this invitation to deliver what is one of the key aspects of our annual conferences. And also, every 2 years, LACEA recognizes the contribution to the profession, to the understanding of economic issues of relevance for our region, by providing an award that this year is going to Professor Jerry Burton from Penn. This is the Carlos Diaz Alejandro Award. It's an award that has only 4 recipients in the past. Ed Barbacha from Brazil was the first recipient. Al Harberger from UCLA. Rudy Dornbusch was also a recipient of this prize in 2002. And most recently, Guillermo Calvo in Mexico. So I invite you to join us in that conference, in the lecture that Jerry Berman will give on the occasion of him receiving this award. Let me also mention that for those of you that will be participating in the meetings of the American Economic Association on the 3rd of January in San Francisco, we're going to have a LACEA sponsored session. I very much welcome you to join us in that session. It's a session on productivity and growth. I'm very grateful to Andres Rodriguez Clare for having put together that session, and I look forward to seeing you there. Let me also announce that, as you all know, LACEA, in addition to these annual meetings, organizes thematic meetings of the different networks. These networks have been working in 5 areas, and we're about to relaunch one of the networks, particularly the one that until now has been called the RIN, the Regional Integration Network. It's becoming the Integration and Growth Network, and it's going to have a new leadership with Pablo Sanguinetti and Chang Tai-Sie, who are going to be the new network coordinators, and we're going to start seeing activity in that front beginning next year. And let me finish by also mentioning that with the support of Global Development Network, this year we've introduced 2 new activities to our association. The first one relates to training. We're hosting courses, short courses on specific issues of relevance for our profession, and particularly for applied economics in Latin America. And those training courses are taking place in different universities throughout Latin America. We started this year with a course on microeconometrics that was generously offered by Sebastián Galiani. And next year we're planning to have 2 more of these short-term courses, which I think are very important for us to keep updated with current methodologies. And we're also launching a new program of mentoring young scholars. The networks, our networks, are going to be used by coaching young economists that are in the stage of beginning the publication of the papers, and the networks will take as one of their main activities to really promote new papers that make it to top journals, and in that process we'll assign mentors, older members of the profession, more senior members of our association that will actually help the younger researchers to make their papers publishable in in again, top journals. And I'm very glad to announce, and very happy to mention this, that next year's conference is going to be hosted by Universidad Itela in Buenos Aires. The conference organizers are going to be Andres Neumeyer and Sebastián Galliani. I think that will only keep the tradition of us having really, really high-level conferences, and I'm very grateful to them and to the Itela University for having agreed to host the event. And I think this is only a signal that our profession is growing. This association is really committed to promoting the debate and the discussion of economic issues of relevance for our region, and and we're certainly meeting that goal. So thanks again for having this event here. Thanks again, Aloisio, for all the work, splendid work you've done for the benefit of all of us. And thanks again to Getulio Vargas Foundation and IMPA for hosting the event. Thank you.
Next speaking, Dr. Antônio Viana, on this occasion representing the President of Petrobras, Mr. José Sérgio Gabrielli.
Good morning at all. In name of Petrobras, I would like to congratulate the participants and welcome to all. Petrobras has a long tradition to support science and technology, and a strong commitment with Brazilian development and with Rio de Janeiro. I hope they all enjoy the meeting. Thank you. Thank you very much. Very brief. No?
In continuity to the ceremony, we concede the word now to Dr. Joaquim Levy, Rio de Janeiro's Department of Treasury Secretary.
Good morning. It's a great pleasure to be here representing the Governor, Sérgio Cabral. He's actually in Istanbul today participating in our campaign to bid for the 2016 Olympics. We love mathematics Olympics, but we also love to have the Olympic Games in Rio in 2016, so the governor is there. But that was actually very good for me because I'm extremely happy to be here. We all think that this meeting really represents the best of Rio. Rio has nature and all these beautiful things, but it's also a research center. We are very proud of our institutions. Of course, IMPA, FGV, but others, CPPF, the physics research centers, Manguinho in biology, and many, many others. So the opportunity to have such a meeting in Rio is very special. And I hope you all enjoy this stay here. It's also special to have it in IMPA. I think, again, IMPA reflects the way we like to operate it. Here, nested in the hills, in the forest, the native forest, it's really the ideal. Looking at the lagoa, it's really the perfect place to work. Rio is the best place to work. I'm convinced of that. Also, of course, to have fun. And you see, I have some association with IMPA for some years. Aloisio, of course, has been an inspiring figure for many of us, not only for his academic work, but also for his disposition to get involved in the discussion and the advancement of public policy in many, many ways. He has given part of his time, a lot of his energy and his thought, which is the most important thing, to many important issues in Brazil. And this is also a very good example. I think finally that We, of course, a meeting of the economic profession this time here in Rio is also of great relevance. I'm sure that in addition to all the purely academic studies, there will be discussions about what comes next. I think that the whole world will be looking to the profession to provide guidance, not only about macro issues, but also, I think, insights about behavior. I think the profession knows more and more about people's behavior. And of course, all these important issues for us who are in government are related to increasing productivity, to regulation, to poverty alleviation, the efficiency of these programs. So I would say, Mr. Thornton, that we are all excited about the program that we're going to have in the next few days. And the government of the state of Rio is happy to support that through FAPERJ, our research foundation, which has changed a lot in the last 2 years, and which is more and more interested in supporting this kind of studies of excellence in academics. Thank you very much.
And it is with great honor that we now transfer the word to Dr. Aloysio Araújo, Chairman of the LACEA, LAMES 2008.
Thank you very much. I'll be very short, so not to delay the program. And we heard most of the things about our meeting by my predecessor anyhow. First of all, I would like to thank LACEA and the Econometric Society to trust me to organize such an important meeting. I had done this in the past, so I knew what was going to get into when I accept that. I knew that's going to be very hard, and I hesitated a little bit, but I thought that I should do it. And then I could only do it because I had very strong help from my co-chair, Humberto Moreira of LAMES, and Luis Braido from LACEA. I had a very strong backing also from personnel in IMPA, Sueli Lima, mostly, and I don't know if she's still my friend, but I put lots of pressure to make this happen, and also from the staff in Getúlio Vargas, and the director of IMPA and Getúlio Vargas, Camacho and Carlos Ivan. So I want to thank them a lot for that. I want to apologize perhaps because the meeting is a little oversized. So it's hard to fit the program in both spatially in IMPA and in the program itself. But let me see, that's a good sign. Our profession has been growing a lot, has been emphasized by both LAMES and LACEA chairs, presence, sorry. And then, so we received lots of suggestions from people in many fields, econometrics, labor, industrial organization, behavior, and so forth. I could not live outside to have people that want to be represented there, want to have major figures in their fields here in the regions. And this is a region that's thirsty for knowledge. And that's a very good sign, I think. So interpret that way. And also it's a meeting that have lots of policy, many important issues to be discussed. Development, poverty, security, environment, and the crisis, no? At the end, as the crisis was becoming more important, the question was, how come we're going to leave the crisis out of it? If we meet about the crisis, everybody wants to talk about it. So fortunately, we made the last effort, and with the help of many people in the World Bank and IDB and IMF and colleagues in the scientific committee. Actually, I want to thank very much the scientific committee for helping us in this. And so we make some of you were pressured by me, Repulio and some others, that to do something in the crisis. No, I had to do. So that's why you had such a big meeting. but that's a sign that the region needs lots of policy, to discuss lots of policy, but also needs to be as close as possible to the scientific frontier. To finish, I would like to make two announcements. One, there will be a dinner on Friday. Many people didn't answer yet. You have to do some planning. Please confirm your participation. Be very nice. There will be lots of effort was put into it. There will be some Brazilian music. The food is good. Or sometimes you think, no, you have a taste of Brazilian food there, and there'll be some interesting Brazilian music, and and there'll be buses leaving from both from the hotel and from IMPA. So I urge you to confirm your participation. Everybody is registered in the Congress is invited to be there. And last, a very quick but important advice. I mean, although we're doing lots of effort, a big improvement, Joaquim Levy knows about it, and then, but the security is not, Rio is not in as high level as we wanted it to be, so be a little careful with, enjoy Rio, see the sightseeing, but always be in a group and then take care. And lastly, it's improved a lot, but you still have need to. But lastly, I want to thank the sponsors of this. Petrobras, being a very good donor for us, Vale de Rio Doce, the multilateral organization, IDB, World Bank, and IMF, and CAFI, and the Brazilians, BNDES, and Vale de Rio Doce, and BBM. So I thank the supporters also. Thank you, and my last words is thank you very much for coming, Rio. We are very happy that you are here. Enjoy the conference, enjoy the city. Thank you very much.
Well, on behalf of IMPA and FGV and the Mastermind Committee, we would like to thank everyone for being here and wish you all a fruitful and pleasant event. Thank you very much.